Well, good morning. This is the Lew Rockwell Show, and how great it is to have our guest again, the great Roger Stone. Roger is, of course, a legendary political consultant, but and he's not that he's abandoned politics, but in his more recent years, he's been writing bestsellers, and he's the author of the extraordinary book, which I also highly recommend, by the way, "The Man Who Killed Kennedy: The Case Against LBJ." But his latest book, which is making waves in Europe as well as in the United States, and maybe around the world, since we're faced with Hillary as a possible president, is called "The Clintons' War on Women." So, Roger, why this book? I must say, it reminds me of the old Whitewater days. I mean, it's sort of all the fun of attacking the Clintons is back. You bring it all back in this book, and of course, it's more than fun, isn't it? Necessary. I mean, isn't she likely to be the president?
Well, there's a very good chance that it's true. Those who are prepared to coronate her and pop the champagne cork's a little premature. I'm certainly not giving up. I think that, look, she's not a liberal. She's a crony capitalist. She's in bed with the Bushes. They're not conservatives. They're crony capitalists. The choice, if we should ever be faced with it, between Clinton and Bush it's no choice at all. It's a Hegelian trap to distract us from the fact that we have central control of government by government in our lives. So I thought it was very important not only to remind people of some of the scandals that they know about the Clintons, but more importantly, to fill them in on the many things that they don't know, because at the time they happened, they were suppressed in the mainstream media. I mean, the shocking truth is, Bill Clinton is a Bill Cosby-like sexual predator. I'm not talking about consensual sex. I'm not talking about girlfriends or mistresses or one-night stands. If I were to write such a book, it would run to 10 volumes. It'd be more like an encyclopedia. I'm talking about sexual assault. Let's use a more ugly word, rape. Some of these cases are known to people. Juanita Broderick, Kathy Willey, Paula Jones. But so many, Lou, are not known, like Eileen Wellstone, Christy Zercher, Helen Dowdy, Becky Brown, Dorothy Kyle Browning, and the list goes on and on and on. And Hillary has not just been an enabler. It's far worse than that. She has been the coordinator of a terror campaign against his victims. It's Hillary who hires the heavy-handed private detectives to silence anyone who might get in the way of the Clintons' lust for power and wealth.
Very interested, and I must say, very happy to see my favorite newspaper, the Daily Mail, write an article about your book and saying it contained the toxic, I would say the dangerous questions that Hillary's got to answer. Can she be made to answer them? I mean, given that the media is just as friendly to her, the big media, just as friendly today to her as they were back in the Clintons' heydays, can this information get out? I mean, there's your book. How's it selling? You're on a big media tour right now. How's that going? I mean, what are you finding the reception to your book to be?
The reception is very good. I'm getting more mainstream media attention than you might expect. It's true that CNN, also known as the Clinton News Network, they, of course, have a news blackout, just as they continue to have a news blackout about any development regarding the Kennedy assassination, for example. Terrific new book out by David Talbot, which outlines the Central Intelligence Agency's role in the murder of Kennedy. Not inconsistent, by the way, with my own book. I mean, CIA is definitely one of the plotters. The mob's in on it, so is Big Texas Oil, and of course there's the drum major, the man who controls the Dallas Police Department, and the Dallas District Attorney, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the greatest single beneficiary of Jack Kennedy's murder. There's the role of the central banks and their fear about the monetary changes that Kennedy was going to make. These are all contributing factors. So, no, I've had a bit of a news blackout. I am doing Bill Maher, his show Real Time in Comedy Central. I'll be taping that tomorrow and appearing on Friday. So far, so good. The best part about this, Lou, is that having interviewed 27 women who were assaulted by Bill, and none of these women are prepared to come forward. A number of them are prepared to speak out. A number of them will be in 30 and 60-second TV spots. A number of them are prepared to board a chase plane and follow Hillary around the country the next fall. So it's not crusty old conservatives like myself who are questioning whether Hillary's really an advocate for women and girls. Let the women themselves speak. Let the ladies step forward.
Well, that would be, I must say, that would be pretty amazing if there were a plane full of these women following Hillary around. Would would in effect the Secret Service allow it, or do you think they might bar it as dangerous to the candidate?
Well, we'll have our own security people. We'll set up our press conference across the street. I mean, this is the great thing about Citizens United. I know some people think it's a bad idea. I happen to believe that money is speech, and there are some donors who want Hillary to be exposed. So it doesn't matter to me whether CNN won't interview these ladies. I'm happy to buy CNN wall to wall in 30-second spots in New Hampshire. I just don't think it's as easy as it was in the old days to suppress information. Thanks to the internet and thanks to Citizens United, I think that the real story of the Clintons can be exposed. People need to know that, for example, that Hillary has never paid women as much as she paid men. As much as she talks about income inequality, any place she's been the boss, the U.S. Senate, the Clinton Foundation, the State Department, she has never paid women more than men or even as much as men. She says she's an advocate for children. Well, what about those girls sold into slavery by Boko Haram, who she refused to put on a terrorist watch list? And then the other element here is, as you know, I'm a strong supporter of Donald Trump. I don't agree with him on many things. He, for example, is a big supporter of the war on drugs, and I think the war on drugs is a big, expensive, abysmal failure. But as demonstrated by his comments about 9/11, he is uncontrolled. And he would get in Hillary's face on some of these issues in a way that the Marco Rubios and the Mike Huckabees would never dare. I think that has some prospect. The political establishment is wetting their britches over Trump's uncontrollability.
No, it's true, and I don't want you to obviously give any secret information out. But if Trump is barred from the nomination, especially by the kinds of shenanigans the Republican establishment is used to, any chance do you think that he might run as an independent?
I think it is unlikely. First of all, he signed a pledge, which was really a better bargain for him than it was for everybody else who signed it. All 16 candidates for president signed a pledge. This was designed to hem Trump in, but I think in the end it hemmed them in. I do still think he's the front runner for the nomination. The real question is whether he chooses to dip into his personal fortune to lock this up. He's going to have to do that. So far, he has run on free media appearances, very reminiscent of Ross Perot, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Where he surged to the front of the polls solely based on free media and the fact that he was saying things that no one else would say. Trump's tax and job proposal is very, very attractive. I think he's going to be saying some things about the monetary policy here shortly that will shake up a lot of the political establishment, and that's going to make him even more dangerous to the powers that be. I think it's unlikely that he would run as an independent. I think that he is going to see the Republican process through, and if he dips into his own pocket, he can lock up this nomination. If he's achieved nothing else, he has ended the candidacy of the Prince, Jeb Bush, the Prince in waiting, whose campaign slogan, Lew, as you know, is "Father, Father, tell them it's my turn to be king."
No, and it's a tremendous. You're exactly right. No matter what else, he has gotten rid of Jeb, which is heroic. I have the same. I don't agree with Trump on much, but I sure enjoy his candidacy. I enjoy the things he says. I enjoyed the fact that he says there's a bubble and that Janet Yellen and the Fed have something to do with it. So he says, as you know, things that are unsayable by the other candidates in a whole range of places. But tell me what you think. Is Hillary? I guess Hillary is going to be the Democratic nominee. Do you think, even if you? Well,
I mean, I don't think that that's even certain. One thing I do know, there's only one person out there who probably dislikes she and her husband more than I do, and that would be Barack Hussein Obama.
Yes.
He's not a fan of hers. He remembers Sidney Blumenthal spreading those rumors that he was gay and that he was the son of Frank Marshall Davis. That's why Sidney Blumenthal, who was a hatchet man for Hillary and was on the payroll of the Clinton Foundation. By the way, why a charity needs a political hitman on the payroll, I don't know. But he was barred from any administration job. Hillary was even prohibited from hiring him at the State Department, although other than Sidney, she was allowed to surround herself with her own people, all of whom had opposed Obama, of course. So there's more than enough evidence to indict her. She's clearly engaged in criminal conduct in terms of her emails and her misuse of classified documents. And I still would not be surprised if that happens. I thought it was interesting that President Obama stood next to Vice President Joe Biden when Biden announced that he was not running. And I kind of wonder whether he isn't standby equipment, whether he doesn't jump in to save the party, as it were, after Hillary is indicted later this year. I don't put that beyond Obama whatsoever. He's a very vindictive guy. He does not like Bill. He's tired of Bill sticking his finger in his face and lecturing him like a kid. He well remembers when Bill Clinton told Ted Kennedy a few years ago, Barack Obama would be getting us coffee and carrying our bags. I think he resents the Clintons deeply, and therefore, I wouldn't bet anything at this point.
Well, it's very good news, and also if Hillary is how should we say swift-boated in the primaries, I suppose there's a chance. That's another reason she might not make it to the nomination. Do you think in that case it would be Biden or would it be somebody else?
I cannot believe they will nominate Bernie Sanders, who says he's a democratic socialist. That's like being a meat-eating vegetarian. I mean, democracy and socialism are not compatible. I give Bernie credit. He's a true believing, socialist. He's a true believing statist. He really thinks an 85% tax rate would really fix this country and that the government ought to really do everything for us. Can't believe in the end, though, that they will nominate him. One of the fundamental problems here has always been that Biden appeals to the same people Hillary appeals to. In other words, the energy in the Democratic Party of today is on the far left, on progressive left. That's why Sanders, who is until recently wasn't even a Democrat, has gotten quite a head of steam because he's not Hillary. It all has to do with the fact that he is not Hillary. And I think many real progressive Democrats, bless their hearts, they realize that Hillary is a tool of Wall Street. She's not going to tame or take on Wall Street. She's completely funded by Wall Street. Is it coincidental? Terrific piece in the New York Times by my friend Maggie Haberman some months ago. 80% of the Clinton donors are also Bush donors. Is this a coincidence? I think not.
Wow. Well, it's. Do you think that other things from their past, you're taking care of this, the war on women aspect? Do you think things like MENA, drug running, and things of that sort from Bill and Hillary's past are going to come up as well?
Yes, particularly if we had, of course, a Clinton-Bush race, since they are both involved in the running of millions of dollars of drugs through Mena, Arkansas, selling them to raise funds to illegally fund the Iran-Contra operation and buy guns for the Nicaraguan rebels. So not only Bill's personal drug use, which is gargantuan. His brother, Roger Clinton, once said, "My brother has a nose like a vacuum cleaner." And not only his personal use of drugs, but the fact that when Dan Lassiter, one of Clinton's closest confidants and one of the biggest drug traffickers of drugs into the United States, was arrested and convicted, he hired as his lawyer a woman named Hillary Clinton, who managed to somehow convince Governor Clinton to give him a full pardon. So, yeah, I think the drugs are part of this tale. I mean, the theme of my book is much broader than the fact that Bill Clinton is a sexual predator. It's a true story of serial rape, intimidation, strong-arm tactics, physical violence against witnesses, drugs, greed, lies, and graft, enormous graft. Because the Clinton Foundation is not a charity. It's a slush fund for grifters. It's a vehicle for the acceptance of bribes. As Peter Schweitzer outlined in his brilliant book, Clinton Cash, American foreign policy, and particularly defense contracts or any other major contract, was for sale. If you had a contract on Hillary's desk, like, say, General Electric did, a major defense contract, a multi-million-dollar contract, they paid Chelsea Clinton $600,000 from NBC, which they owned at the time, and lo and behold, Hillary approves their contract. It was pay for play. And it's not one or two examples. There are literally dozens of examples of multi-million-dollar payments to the Clintons, either personally for quote-unquote speeches, $1.5 million for a 20-minute speech? Who are we kidding? Nothing Bill Clinton has to say could possibly be that profound. $750,000 to Hillary for a 20-minute speech? These are vehicles for bribes. They are financially corrupt. They're ethically corrupt. They're morally corrupt. The story goes on and on and on. I reveal in the book, for example, the story of Bill's abandoned mixed-race son, Danny Williams. Bill Clinton fathered Danny Williams with the cocaine-addicted prostitute, Bobby Ann Williams. He is very definitely Danny Williams' father. they look exactly alike. The Star in 1999, when Hillary was warming up for her Senate race, claimed that there was a DNA test that disproved Bill's paternity. The Star was owned by Robert Altman. Robert Altman ran the Resolution Trust Corporation. He's a college buddy of Bill Clinton's and a major donor to the Clinton Foundation and all the Clinton campaigns. Lou, there is no DNA test. The current owners of the Star, I contacted them. They went through their files. They have no records of a DNA test disproving that Bill abandoned his sons. So Bill Clinton is a deadbeat dad. Hillary keeps lecturing us about our families and our babies. Why don't you take care of your own? Poor Danny Williams, never to be acknowledged, never to be loved, never to be nurtured, never to be supported. Bill made $358 million last year. Danny Williams is living in a tar paper shack in Fayetteville, Arkansas. They should take care of their own family.
Roger, I saw a story recently, I'm trying to remember where it was, on that Hillary, if she were president, would not have Bill as first gentleman in the White House, but would ask either Chelsea or Huma Abedin to fulfill that. They'd be first lady. I mean, I don't know what the title would be. Who is Huma Abedin? You cover this in your book.
Yeah, first of all, Huma Abedin is the wife of disgraced pervert Congressman Anthony Weiner. I prefer to call her Mrs. Carlos Danger, which, of course, is the nom de plume that her husband used online when he was texting photos of his man parts to underage girls. And what's more disturbing, Lou, is she's the only woman in the history of the U.S. government, certainly in the history of the State Department, who was allowed to have a full-time job at the State Department as a counselor to Hillary. At the same time, she's getting a paycheck from Teneo, a Clinton-connected lobbying firm that represents a number of Middle Eastern governments with business at the State Department. At the same time, she's allowed to triple dip with a nice fat check from the Clinton Foundation. Again, a slush fund for the Clintons' political retainers and for luxury travel for the Clintons. Not only that, but she has her parents and her brothers have direct ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, we know that Huma is the one with Cheryl Mills, another henchwoman of Hillary's, who reviewed all of the emails, which included, we now know, despite Hillary's lies, classified documents. And therefore, this woman has a full security clearance, and it's not clear to me that her first loyalty is to the United States of America. And when she travels with Hillary, as we've demonstrated by FOIA-ing these travel schedules, she stays in the same suite with Hillary. The State Department tells us that is because Hillary has an acute health problem, and she may need to be attended to in the night. Well, then, if she's running for president and she has that kind of a health problem, we should know about that. So let's just say it's very, very suspicious. At the same time, my sources tell me that Bill is increasingly feeble of both body and mind. He has taken away any legal authority from him at the Clinton Foundation. He is being walled off of the campaign. He's not included in the campaign's deliberations. This was demonstrated when he was interviewed recently about why they were boosting so much money out of the Clinton Foundation. And he said, well, I've got to pay my bills. Really? You made $358 million last year. Can you not service your bills? I really don't think that he is mentally stable these days, nor do I think he's physically stable. So I think they will end up using him very sparingly in the campaign.
Is it cocaine? Is it some other health? Is it a health problem?
I think it is. It's many years of drug abuse. I don't know that he's abusing drugs anymore. I don't think his heart could take it. I do know that the Reverend Al Sharpton convinced him some time ago to become a vegan for his own good. I think he has severe heart problems based on a terrible diet, many late nights chasing underage girls, and a lot of cocaine. And I think he's paying a price for that now.
Roger, your book is hot, very well written, very well documented. It's a tremendous story. It's a true story. It's a very important story about this woman who wants even more power than she's had over every single one of us, and may go on the New York Times bestseller list like your previous book.
Well, we're in that crucial period right now. We'll know in the next week whether we make it to the New York Times list. The Clinton people have peppered Amazon with hundreds of negative reviews, one-star reviews. This book is crap. This book has all been discredited. This has all been disproven. We ultimately were able to prove that all those, or most of those reviews, traced back to an IP address at the Clinton headquarters in Brooklyn.
No, that was tremendous detective work, yes.
And the Amazon people, to their credit, took most of them down. a new problem. Good friends of mine who have posted 5-star reviews and extensive reviews find that their reviews go up on Amazon and then they suddenly disappear. So we'll talk to them about that. But if you're going to buy this book, please buy it now. Bring it to any of my book signings. I'll be happy to sign it for you, even if you don't buy it at the book signing. You can go on rogerstone.com and see my book tour. Click on book tour. You'll see where I'm going to be. And I would love, I do a brief talk and then I take questions until nobody has any more questions, and I sign books. I have had to take on personal security. I really have had some death threats since I wrote this. My next book, which is entitled Jeb, the Bush Crime Family, will be out in January. That's already up on Amazon. You can pre-order it. We tell the entire arc of the story. Prescott Bush arming the Nazis, making money off of slave labor at a steel mill in Auschwitz. George H.W. Bush not only overseeing the task force that imports millions of dollars of cocaine into the United States, but also his many strange connections to the attempted assassination on Reagan, far beyond what you've been told previously. And then, of course, George W. Bush lying our way into war in Iraq. It's very sad, Lou. I have a sentimental attachment to the Republican Party. I was a young Republican national chairman. I joined the Republican Party at Barry Goldwater, a party that wanted small government and wanted government out of our lives. Both parties have sadly morphed into one party. It's the Wall Street Party. It's the party of endless war, erosion of civil liberties, weak money, endless debt, more and more borrowing, more and more debt, high taxes on working people while the hedge fund boys on Wall Street pay almost nothing. It's very sad. I really pine for the old Republican Party, but I'm afraid that party's gone. That's why I re-registered Libertarian some years ago, although that party's full of crazy people too. But I'm more comfortable there than I was in the GOP of Mitt Romney.
No, and I worked, of course, at a much lower level for Barry Goldwater myself, but I've since gone straight. I can't stand the Republican Party anymore.
Well, they're the same. They're exactly the same. They're not different. They endeavor so hard to sound different, but in the end, the policies of Obama and Romney were identical. I worked very hard to get Governor Gary Johnson on the ballot in 48 states. We still couldn't get the time of day from the national media. The Presidential Commission on Debates, not appointed by the president, not a commission, and not about debates, about limiting debate and not letting people know that there are alternatives to the two major Wall Street parties.
Well, wasn't that set up after Perot was in the debates and they sort of decided never again can a guy like this be allowed?
Exactly right. Well, the co-chairman of the Presidential Commission of Debates are the Republican National Chairman and the Democrat National Chairman. And as you know, the rules in the 50 states about getting on the ballot are written by Republicans and Democrats working together to limit our choices. Look, it's a massive fight to save America. It's an uphill fight, but I refuse to give up. That's why I've written this book. And in this book, I detail how the Bushes and the Clintons are profiteering together. They raised $138 million for Haitian earthquake relief. They spend $10 million in Haiti. They pocket the rest. They close the nonprofit, and they won't answer any questions. Maybe this is why Barbara Bush says that Bubba is the fifth Bush brother, or why George W. says that Hillary's like his sister-in-law.
And I was reminded just today of Barbara's quote during the Iraq War. She said, why should I worry about body bags? Why should I worry about corpses? Why should I bother my beautiful mind with such thoughts?
Well, also George Bush, who, when one of his age, actually a friend of mine, a guy I know worked for him after they'd been on the road 3 weeks, said, look, I got to get home and do some laundry and take care and pay some bills. And he says, you mean you don't have somebody who does that for you?
So, Roger, thanks a million for the work you're doing. You took down LBJ. You're taking down the Clintons, and Jeb, I guess it better watch out next. So it's terrific you're writing. If anybody gets a chance to hear Roger on his book tour or anyplace else, he's a tremendous speaker. You will love hearing him. You're a national asset, Roger, and thanks a million for coming on the show today.
Well, Lou, thanks you so much for your friendship and support. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Well, thanks so much for listening to the Lew Rockwell Show today. Take a look at all the podcasts. There have been hundreds of them. There's a link on the LRC front page. Thank you.